Why whales? Why dolphins?
I find dolphins fascinating because
There's no other wild animal of its size that will interact with humans.
Some of the whales have gone up on their side and looked at me.
And you make that eye contact with a dolphin.
For me, that's really neat.
And they make you feel in a different way.
Real good feel factor.
From encountering dolphins and whales.
I think that's the why whales and dolphins for me.
The Hauraki Gulf and the Bay of Islands, a region respected worldwide for its stunning landscape and abundance of diverse marine wildlife. For the last 13 years, Professor Scott Baker and his team of marine biologists have been studying the Bryde's whale and bottlenose dolphins in this region.
I'm interested in conservation genetics of whales and dolphins primarily. Their role in the ecosystem, their history of exploitation, their current abundance. All of those I think are important for understanding our relationship to the marine ecosystem and both how we've exploited it in the past and how we can preserve it in the future.
Scott and his colleagues are using mitochondrial DNA to determine current population numbers in order to model past abundance of whales and dolphins and paint a picture of population numbers for the future.
Well, mitochondria are organelles that are found in all the cells of all mammals. And mitochondrial DNA is a small circular genome, only about 16,000 bases, that's found in multiple copies in every one of those organelles. They're thought to be a remnant of an ancient symbiosis between bacteria and what became eukaryotic cells. That's maybe more than we need to know. But the interesting thing about it is that it's inherited strictly from our mothers. So our mitochondrial DNA is that of our mothers. For that reason, it's very useful for mammals because maternal relationships are very important in many mammalian societies.
Biopsy samples of skin provide the necessary mitochondrial DNA for examination in the laboratory.
What I'd initially do is you have to actually first extract the DNA from this sample then, which takes like 2-3 days, it takes a bit of time. And then I run this within a machine which actually amplifies the DNA. From the extracted DNA, it might be that you get quite some degraded samples and things. So you need to first amplify that. And then you can use that to then run on a specialised machine as well that then shows you the bases that each individual has, of different bases, A, C, G and T, and then up to about 700 base pairs, and then from that then we can distinguish these different individuals.
By genetically identifying individuals in a group, whale and dolphin population numbers are calculated. We can then come to understand these mammals that have always been an important part of New Zealand's heritage.
Culturally, it's a spiritual job that dolphins and whales do for us here in the Bay of Islands. Now, Māori people say when dolphins come into the bay, they come and collect the spirits of the people who have passed away recently. They act as kaitiaki or guardians for their spirits. They guide them out of the bay and point them in the direction north up to Cape Reinga, up the very top of the North Island. That's where our people say our spirits leave from on their journey back to a place called Hawaii. The parallels that we have here in the Bay of Islands, I guess, are that this area, this Awawa waterway, is known as Te Awawa Taumarere. It's known as the River of Chiefs, this particular area here. And we share that waterway with dolphins and whales, and it's important that we protect it, I think, and that's the essence of that.
Many New Zealanders feel a strong connection to dolphins, But how realistic is this perception?
I think we are much more enamoured with them than they are with us. As a general rule, dolphins don't really care about us at all. They're not that interested in bow riding. They're not that interested in swimming with us. But there are some that are. And it's those few individuals that interact with us that keep us fascinated with them. We don't even factor into their world most of the time.
That tissue, although as small as it is, less than a gram or even less than a half a gram from dolphins, because we use a smaller dart for the smaller animals, provides us with essentially a permanent archive, permanent molecular archive. From that piece of skin, we can extract DNA and use that DNA in literally thousands of experiments, some that we may not even be able to anticipate now. Well, we may be able to anticipate, for example, sequencing the entire genome of every individual, as they've done for only now one human. That's not in the near future, but in the not far future we may be able to collect that level of information about almost every individual. And this DNA will still be there 20, 30, 40, 50 years and usable. Even though I'm going to pass on, and the dolphins and the whales are going to pass on, that DNA potentially is going to be a contribution to future research for decades. Well, the future of whales and dolphins, I think, is largely up to us. How we as people and as governments value them, and how we respect their environment. And to some degree that is important to us, the environment. If dolphins can't live in the coastal environment, we're not going to be able to live in them. I mean, some people have pointed out that bottlenose dolphins are in many ways, the canary in the coal mine. They're living in the coastal environment that we're creating, but it's one we want to live in as well. So there's a component of that reflects on us, but there's a component, I believe, that's independent of us. We have to learn to respect wildlife and the environment on its own terms, not just in our own narrow or commercial terms. So I think the future of whales and dolphins there's ground for optimism. The environment has suffered considerably less than the terrestrial environment. There's less competition for it. On the downside, the marine environment has been notoriously difficult to manage. It is an international resource, and in that it requires agreements between countries, and those are often difficult to gain and to enforce. So I think there's grounds for hope, but there's also cause for concern.